Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. I'm alive. I had a fantastic trip over in Europe last month, and the souvenir that I brought home was COVID. My husband recovered very fast, but based on the absence of my movie reviews, you can tell I really struggled for 3 weeks. I still had a little cough and some other symptoms, but I finally have the energy and the voice somewhat to do a movie review. I've got a lot of catching up to do. I had my very first time out of the house just Saturday, where we went and saw a movie. And when I walked in, I asked the guy who was taking the tickets, what is the movie you're most excited to see? And this is the one that he said. He said, Transformers 1, this animated prequel of sorts to the beloved Transformers franchise, is obviously now playing in theaters. It's rated PG. And by the way, this is the very first Transformers movie to be rated PG since 1986. Amazing, right? It's an animation. And so I think that that's what helps soften the robotic violence and battles and all that kind of stuff. It's an hour and 44 minutes. And my overall movie review, Mom, grade is an A. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'll give you all the details. I'll point out the things I liked, things I didn't, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and I'll finish up with recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like. But first, let me introduce today's featured product that you can find on Amazon. Yep, it is an Optimus Prime action figure. It's a transformer. Man, these things have been popular for decades. I remember when my baby brother had surgery at 3 years old. Anytime he just whimpered a little bit, my parents threw a new Transformers toy at him, and it did the trick. And then my boys growing up liked Transformers as well. So, in a nutshell, the film was directed by Josh Cooley. This is his very first one outside of his filmography with Pixar. Screenwriting credits go to Andrew Bearer. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing his name correctly or not. Gabriel Ferrari, Steve Desmond, and Michael Sherman. The movie gives us an origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron and explains the birth of their very different motivations. I was happy to see that Michael Bay and Steven Spielberg served as two of the producers of the film to ensure that it had a good blend of action and heart. And I think those two do both of those things extremely well. I was a bit worried that this franchise had petered out, but I think that this new addition, specifically in animation, really breathes fresh air and new life into the franchise. So well done. Quick tips for parents. This is a great choice for a family-friendly movie. My sons would have absolutely loved this when they were little. There is robotic violence and robot battles, and various robotic weapons are used, but we don't see blood and guts in as if it were a live action movie. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are friendship, good versus evil, or good versus good, depending on how you look at it, hope, ambition, hatred, power, ideological differences, social hierarchy, having the ability to make your own choices, and the ability to make your world better. Those are some good messages and great topics to have conversations with your kids if you watch this with your family. Now, on to the list of things I really liked about this film. First of all, this animated version of Transformers movie is a great way to tell the story. Can you believe it has been 38 years since the last animated Transformers movie from 1986? That's amazing. The idea for this movie has actually been in development since 2014 after the great success of the Transformers movie called Transformers Age of Extinction. It's amazing how expressive pieces of steel can be in the live action, but also in animation. At the very beginning of the film, we're given information on the history of the Transformers, which is super helpful if you're new to this franchise. The voice talent for this film is terrific and includes Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, Lawrence Fishburne, John Hamm, and Steve Buscemi. Pretty nice lineup, right? Chris Hemsworth actually worked very hard to disguise his regular Australian voice, but the director actually wanted Keegan-Michael Key to use his real voice for Bumblebee because it is so expressive and playful. There is plenty of visual and spoken humor throughout, and Bumblebee absolutely steals the show. The director, Josh Cooley, admitted that he and his generation were somewhat emotionally traumatized by the deaths in the 1986 movie. So he wanted to create a very different kind of film that would not traumatize kids. And I think he succeeds. Fun fact, in order to align the Transformers lore between Hasbro, cartoons, the video games, Takara Tomy, and the live action movies, they created a quote, binder of revelations, a 345-page documentary of the history of all the characters. Unfortunately, it gathered dust for years, but was pulled out of some drawer somewhere and handed to director Josh Cooley, who really studied it before making this movie. And while some plot points and characters are different, Josh Cooley loved and respected the franchise, committed to doing the best that he could for continuity's sake. And I think fans are really going to appreciate that. Fun fact number 2, this is the very first trailer to debut in space. What? On April 18, 2024, a drone was launched that pointed a camera to a small screen that showed the trailer to a live audience. That's pretty cool. All of the main characters get a good amount of screen time and growth. And this is the very first time that we get to see a feature film located entirely on Cybertron. Just like a phrase spoken in the movie, this film is more than meets the eye, which is why I'm giving it a thumbs up. Well, or giving it such a good grade. However, there were just a couple of things I didn't like or thought could have been done better or differently. For example, surprisingly, the movie is not doing well in South America. And the reason is that the characters Bumblebee and Megatron were voiced by unknown actors who really didn't have experience with this kind of work. Fans have demanded that Paramount will change the voices and release a new slash better version of the film, which I found to be really interesting. Of course, we love all of the voices and easily recognize them, except for maybe Chris Hemsworth, unless you know that he is the voice in this movie. But I think that speaks a lot to animation and how we love hearing our favorite actors, even though we don't see them. We love hearing their voices. And then if you're not interested in Transformers, this movie is really not for you. I don't know if it's going to win any new fans. I don't know if you'll prefer live action. You might not like the animated version and vice versa. I don't know, just throwing that out there. So whenever I watch movies, I write down the funny lines and interesting lines simply so you can get a taste for the dialogue and script writing quality. You can see all of them on my moviereviewmom.com website, but I'll share some of them with you right now. So Scarlett Johansson, this is for the funny lines. We'll start with those. Scarlett Johansson plays this feisty female robot, and she's talking to somebody, and then he says something back, and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry if I gave you the impression that we're friends." And then, of course, as you can imagine, that changes. She's not quite as, what's the word? I wanted to say feisty, but just not unfriendly, I guess. And then Bumblebee is filled with funny lines. And one of the lines that he says is they're walking into a cave and he says, "Oh, a cave with teeth. Nothing scary about that." And so he's got some snarky, fun, whimsical humor, which is great fun. Now, for the interesting lines, there were so many of them. So this is a line that's spoken several times in the movie, spoken by Alpha Trio, voiced by Lawrence Fishburne. And he says, "What defines a transformer is not the cog in his chest, but the spark that resides in their core, a spark that gives you the will to make your world better." That's such a great theme of the entire movie. Sentinel Prime, who's voiced by John Hamm, says some crazy things. He says, "The truth is what I make it," which is Obviously not true. There is truth that is eternal principles that are not up for interpretation, but that's just my opinion. Or it's the truth. Which one do you think it is? And then here's another line that's repeated several times. And this one was spoken by Orion Pax, who's Chris Hemsworth character. And he says, we all have the power to transform. And I love that he used the word transform to become who we were destined to be, to right wrongs, to make our world better. Because here, freedom and autonomy are the rights of all sentient beings. Now, that's a mouthful, especially for kids who might watch this who don't even know what a sentient being is. Anyway, you can see all of those lines on my website. So I wanted to recommend 3 films that I think are just great that you're also going to want to watch. So the first one, of course, is Transformers: Age of Extinction. And by the way, you can click on my description down below and get links that will take you directly to these videos on Amazon. Now, they're affiliate links. They don't cost you any more to rent or purchase, but Amazon will throw a few pretty pennies my way to thank me for telling you that these are on Amazon and available. The second one is Bumblebee, which was so cute, so popular, so beloved when it came out. And then now this last one might surprise you, but it is an animation about robots. It's called Big Hero 6. And it's adorable. If you haven't seen it, or if your kids haven't seen it and they like robots, definitely introduce them to this one. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Hopefully you'll enjoy this film and have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.